The Galactic Academy of Unified Species floated in silent orbit above a pale blue gas giant, its curved silver halls filled with voices from 100 worlds. Every year, the Academy accepted the best young minds from across the galaxy to train future officers, scientists, and strategists. Most cadets believed they already knew what strength looked like. Tall frames, hard shells, natural weapons. Psychic power, speed. That belief walked into classroom 17 the moment the door slid open. She was human. The girl stepped inside with a small bag over one shoulder and a data slate held close to her chest. She was shorter than almost everyone else in the room. Her skin had no scales, no fur, no plating. Her eyes were round, her movements careful but steady. She wore the standard cadet uniform, adjusted to fit a body type most of the academy had only seen in files and outdated war records. A few cadets stopped talking. Others leaned forward with interest. Some made no effort to hide their amusement. The instructor, a tall insectoid being with 4 arms and reflective eyes, announced her presence in a neutral tone. "Cadets, this is Exchange Cadet Mara Hale. Species, human. She will be joining your class for the remainder of the term." She felt the weight of dozens of eyes on her, studying her like a strange object. She had trained for this moment. She had read the reports, watched the recordings, memorized the history. Still, knowing and feeling were not the same. She sat down, placed her bag neatly under the desk, and looked forward. Across the room, a tall cadet with gray skin and long arms leaned back in his chair. His species was known for physical dominance and battlefield strength. He glanced at his friends and let out a slow laugh. "A human," he said, not quietly. Another cadet, this one with glowing markings along her neck, tilted her head. "I thought humans stayed in their own systems." Humans had learned long ago to listen even when pretending not to. She did not react. Her face stayed calm, her breathing slow. The instructor tapped the floor with one sharp limb. The sound echoed and the room fell silent. "Today's lesson will focus on applied tactical theory under stress," the instructor said. "This is not a lecture-only session." "Each cadet will be evaluated not on strength," the instructor continued, "but on decision-making under pressure. You will be observed." Pressure was familiar. What was new was the way this room wanted her to fail. The instructor activated the central display. A tactical scenario appeared, showing a complex structure with multiple access points, hazards, and moving threats. "This exercise will be conducted in a shared simulation," the instructor said. "Cadets will be assigned roles." Mara's name appeared last. She noticed something immediately. Her assigned role placed her at the edge of the scenario, isolated from the main group with limited resources. The others noticed too. That was not an accident. The gray-skinned cadet raised one long finger. "Instructor," he said, "is the human cadet ready for this level of simulation?" Humans had learned that sometimes silence was the strongest answer. The instructor paused. "The simulation will account for individual limits," the instructor said. "That is the point of the lesson." The room darkened as the simulation engaged. The air hummed softly. The desks vanished, replaced by the illusion of standing inside a vast industrial structure. Metal walkways stretched in multiple directions. Warning lights flashed. Distant sounds echoed through the space. Mara found herself alone on a narrow platform. Her display showed minimal tools, no heavy equipment, no enhanced sensors. Across the structure, the other cadets appeared together, well-equipped and confident. One of them laughed. "Looks like the human got lost already." "Begin." Humans had never been the strongest or fastest. They survived by noticing what others ignored. She moved only when she was sure. As she advanced along the platform, she noticed a maintenance panel partially hidden behind a support beam. It was old, its design universal. Most species never bothered to learn maintenance systems. Humans always did. When things went wrong, humans were usually the ones left to fix them. She opened the panel and studied the connections. She could not override the system completely, but she could influence it. Elsewhere, the main group ran into trouble. Their direct approach activated heavier defenses. A cadet with natural armor took a hit and stumbled. Another used psychic force to push forward, but the structure adapted, increasing resistance. "Why is this getting harder?" one cadet shouted. The gray-skinned cadet growled. "Push through." A door near the main group closed seconds earlier than expected, separating 2 cadets. "What happened?" one demanded. "No idea," came the reply. Mara moved again, staying low, avoiding open areas. She was not trying to win, not yet. She was learning the system. She noticed how the simulation responded to aggression. The harder the cadets pushed, the more the environment pushed back. That made sense. Many alien training systems were designed to test dominance. Humans tested endurance. The instructor observed silently. Data streamed across their display. They noticed the human was still active, still moving, not frozen, not eliminated. That was unexpected. One cadet finally noticed her position marker still glowing. "Instructor," they said, "the human hasn't been eliminated." Then she did something the system designers had not expected. She stopped. She sat down on the metal floor, slowed her breathing, and waited. The simulation adjusted, confused. Threats moved, searching for engagement. Power levels fluctuated. Mara watched the patterns. After a few moments, she stood and made one small change. A delay, a reroute, a simple human trick. Across the structure, the main group felt it. "What is happening?" someone demanded as the environment shifted again. The gray-skinned cadet's confidence began to crack. "This doesn't make sense." And for the first time since entering the room, Mara Hale felt something shift. Not respect. Not yet. Attention. The lesson had only begun. The simulation did not stop when the class grew quiet. Machines did not care about pride or surprise. The structure continued to shift, walls sliding, lights pulsing, pathways narrowing and opening in slow, confusing patterns. What had changed was the mood inside the shared space. The alien cadets were no longer treating the exercise like a simple test. Something was wrong, and they could feel it. Mara moved carefully through a service corridor that most of the others had ignored. It was narrow and low, forcing her to crouch. For her, it was uncomfortable but manageable. For many other species, it would have been impossible. She understood now why her starting position had been placed here. The system assumed a human would be limited by size and strength. It had not considered how useful small spaces could be. She stopped at another panel and listened again. The sound of distant movement echoed through the metal walls. Heavy steps, fast ones, energy discharges. The others were still pushing forward, still trying to overpower the scenario. Mara shook her head slightly. That approach always cost more than it gave. She checked her interface and reviewed the rules again. No direct attacks on fellow cadets were allowed. Environmental interaction was permitted. System manipulation was restricted but not forbidden. That last part was important. It meant the simulation allowed cleverness, as long as it stayed within defined limits. Humans had a long history of living inside limits and finding ways around them. On the other side of the structure, the gray-skinned cadet led his group through a wide corridor. His long arms were tense, his confidence thinner than before. He did not like uncertainty. His species valued clear dominance, clear outcomes. This simulation was becoming unclear. "Spread out," he ordered. "Find the control nodes." A door sealed behind them with a heavy clang. The corridor lights dimmed. "Why did it do that?" someone asked. The instructor's voice did not answer. The instructor was watching something else. Mara had found a secondary control node. It was not a master system, but it influenced environmental behavior. She studied the data flowing across her display. The system responded to threat density. The more force concentrated in one area, the more resistance it created. That meant one thing: she could turn the other's strength against them. She adjusted the node just enough to exaggerate that response, not to break the rules, just to lean into them. Then she moved on. The simulation reacted almost immediately. The corridor ahead of the main group narrowed, forcing them closer together. Automated defenses activated, targeting clustered movement. "Fall back!" someone shouted. They tried. The path behind them shifted, redirecting them into a circular route. The gray-skinned cadet slammed a fist into the wall. "This is impossible." From there, she could see part of the main chamber through a grated floor. The other cadets were below, arguing, their movements sharp and unfocused. She stayed still and watched. One of the instructors monitoring protocols flagged her behavior as non-standard. The instructor adjusted their view, zooming in on Mara's position. They noticed how little energy she was using, how she avoided every direct confrontation. "This is interesting," the instructor murmured, more to themselves than to the class. Mara waited until the others triggered another escalation. A heavy automated unit activated, blocking their path forward. They responded with force. Energy blasts, physical strikes, psychic pressure. The system responded in kind. Mara adjusted her position and accessed another minor control. She redirected power flow so the automated unit drew energy from the same section, controlling environmental stability. The effect was subtle but dangerous. The floor beneath the automated unit began to vibrate. Cracks formed. Warning signals flashed. "Stop attacking it!" the glowing marked cadet shouted. Too late. The unit collapsed through the floor, taking part of the structure with it. The main group scrambled to avoid falling. Emergency barriers deployed, sealing off the collapse. Dust filled the air. Silence followed. Mara exhaled slowly. She had not harmed anyone. The system had done that itself. She moved away from the edge and continued deeper into the structure. By now, the class was no longer a lesson in tactics. It was a lesson in awareness. Some cadets began to realize that something unseen was influencing the environment. It's adapting too quickly, one said, like it knows what we'll do. The idea that the human might be responsible felt impossible. Humans were weak. Humans reacted. Humans did not control, and yet, Myra reached the central junction. It was a wide, open space with multiple branching paths and a large control pillar in the center. This was the heart of the simulation. Direct control was restricted, but observation was allowed. She placed a hand on the cool metal and studied the data. The system showed the positions of every cadet. The main group was clustered, exhausted, confused. None of them had been eliminated, but all were close. Mara felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Not pride, not anger, responsibility. She could push this further. She could trap them completely, force the instructor to end the simulation. But humans knew the cost of humiliation. They had paid it many times in history. She did not want revenge. She wanted understanding. She made one final adjustment, a gentle one. She eased the system's aggression toward the clustered group and increased it in areas of reckless movement. The effect was immediate. The environment calmed slightly around them, allowing space to breathe. The cadets noticed. It stopped, one said. Why did it stop? Mara stepped out from behind the control pillar and into the open. She did not raise her hands. She did not posture. She simply stood, small and calm, in the center of the structure. The other cadets stared at her. How? Someone asked quietly. Mara met their gaze. I listened, she said. Her voice was steady, clear. You were all very loud. Exchange Cadet Hale, they said. Explain your approach. Humans don't usually get expected outcomes. Mara stepped back, returning to the shadows. The other cadets did not try to stop her. As the simulation prepared for the next phase, one truth settled over the room like gravity. The human had not survived by being strong. She had survived by understanding. And now the class was paying attention. The simulation reset did not erase memory. The walls returned to their clean shapes, the lights stabilized, and the damaged sections repaired themselves, but the feeling in the air remained heavy. The alien cadets stood farther apart now. No one laughed. No one spoke loudly. Every movement felt careful, measured. Mara stood near the edge of the central area, her hands relaxed at her sides. She did not feel proud. Pride made people careless. She felt alert. That feeling had kept humans alive for generations. The instructor's voice returned, calm but sharper than before. The parameters have been adjusted. This phase will focus on adaptive response. Cadets will not be informed of changes in advance. The gray-skinned cadet glanced toward Mara again. He did not speak, but his posture had changed. His shoulders were no longer relaxed. His confidence was no longer easy. He had learned something he did not like about himself. He had underestimated someone, and the universe had noticed. The simulation began again. This time, threats appeared without warning. Sections of the structure shifted suddenly. Lights flickered between bright and dark. The system no longer followed a clear pattern. Mara immediately noticed the difference. The environment was no longer reacting only to force. It was reacting to prediction. The system was learning from previous actions. That made things more dangerous. She moved slowly, testing each step. She let others go first. She watched how the environment responded to speed, to hesitation, to sudden changes. The other cadets struggled. Their instincts told them to act quickly, to assert control. Every time they did, the system responded with increased difficulty. Walls rose, floors tilted, new threats activated. This is unfair, one cadet muttered. The instructor did not respond. Myra crouched near a corner and focused on the data flowing across her display. The system was not random. It never was. It only felt that way to those who did not understand it. Humans had learned long ago that chaos often followed rules. You just had to find them. She noticed something small but important. The system delayed its response by a fraction of a second after detecting a decision. That delay was consistent. It meant the system predicted, then reacted. Mara smiled faintly. She began to move in a way that felt wrong. She started, then stopped. She changed direction without reason. She stepped forward, then back. Her movements were inefficient, messy. The system hesitated. Threats activated late. Doors closed after she had already passed. Sensors misjudged her position. The other cadets did not notice at first. They were too focused on surviving their own paths. The gray-skinned cadet led his group again, but his orders were quieter now. "Slow down," he said. "Watch the walls." Mara climbed another maintenance route, this one unstable and partially collapsed. Her grip slipped once and her heart jumped, but she recovered. Humans were good at falling. They had practice. From above, she could see multiple routes converging into a large chamber ahead. She suspected that was the next objective. The system wanted them to meet there. She moved ahead of the others, careful not to draw attention. Inside the chamber, the air felt heavy. The floor was smooth and reflective, no visible threats. That worried her more than open danger. She stepped forward, nothing happened. She took another step, still nothing. The system waited. Mara exhaled slowly and knelt, placing her hand flat against the floor. She felt a faint vibration. The entire chamber was a sensor. She stood and backed away. At that moment, the others arrived. The gray-skinned cadet entered first, scanning the room. "Clear," he said, though his voice lacked confidence. Mara stayed near the entrance. As more cadets entered, the vibration increased. Mara spoke before she could overthink it. "Don't all go in." Some ignored her, too many entered. The system reacted. The floor dropped, not completely, just enough. Gravity shifted sharply downward. Several cadets stumbled. One fell to a knee. Panic rippled through the group. Energy barriers snapped into place around the chamber, sealing the exits. "What did you do?" Someone shouted at Mara. She shook her head. "I didn't do anything." "The room did." "Because together you make predictable decisions," Mara replied. They stared at her. She stepped forward, deliberately making her movements obvious. The gravity shifted again, adjusting to her path. She stopped suddenly. The gravity lagged. She took advantage of that lag and moved sideways, staying close to the wall where the pull was weaker. "It's following expectations," she said. "Not actions." They moved in strange patterns, unpredictable ones. Some waited too long, some moved suddenly, some changed direction mid-step. The system struggled, the gravity wavered, the barriers flickered. Mara reached a control panel near the wall and opened it. This one was more restricted. Accessing it would trigger an alert. She did it anyway. The instructor's display flashed. "Unauthorized interaction detected." The cadets stood there, breathing hard, staring at Mara. "You broke it," someone said. Mara shook her head again. "No, I confused it." The instructor turned to face them. "What did you learn?" they asked. No one answered immediately. Finally, the gray-skinned cadet stood. His movement was stiff, controlled. He did not look at Mara at first. "I learned that strength without thought is noise," he said. He turned to her then. "And that we were very loud." Not victory, not relief, recognition. The instructor nodded slowly. "Humans evolved in unstable environments," they said. "That history matters." "Yes, instructor." One moment the classroom was solid beneath their feet, the familiar desks and walls in place, and the next the world shifted again. The simulation did not fade in gently this time. It snapped into existence like a closed fist. They stood in a wide-open terrain under a dim artificial sky. The ground was uneven, a mix of metal plates, dust, and broken structures. Tall shapes stood in the distance like ruins from an old conflict. There was no clear center, no obvious objective. The cadets instinctively looked to the instructor, but the instructor said nothing. Mara felt the change immediately. This simulation was different. It was not a puzzle built around systems and rules. It was designed to feel uncertain, unfinished, dangerous in quiet ways. Humans knew this feeling well. It reminded her of disaster training environments back home, the kind built to test how people acted when there was no clear right answer. The instructor's voice finally arrived, low and even. "This phase simulates uncontrolled conflict conditions. No teams are assigned. No guidance will be given. Cadets will be evaluated on judgment." That word made several cadets uneasy. The gray-skinned cadet scanned the area. "So, what do we do?" Others followed. A few stayed back, unsure. The environment reacted slowly this time. No sudden attacks, no clear feedback. The glowing-marked cadet frowned. "It's waiting for us." "Only focus." "Then what do you suggest?" he asked. Mara hesitated. She was aware of every eye on her now. Being noticed was dangerous in a different way. Humans understood leadership too. It was not about control. It was about responsibility. "We gather information first," she said. "Not too close, not too far, just enough to understand what kind of world this is." Others looked unsure, but no one laughed. That alone told her how much had changed. They began moving in small groups, careful not to cluster. Mara walked with two others, neither speaking much. She watched the terrain, the way shadows fell, the way sound echoed. She noticed tracks in the dust that did not match any cadet's movement. "Something else is here," she said softly. One of the cadets stiffened. "You're sure?" The ground beneath them collapsed, dropping them into a shallow pit. The fall was not severe, but the surprise caused panic. Others rushed toward them. "Don't all go," Mara called out. Some stopped, some didn't. The pit widened slightly as more weight approached. Myra ran toward the edge, stopping just short. She lay flat and reached out, distributing her weight. "Move slowly," she told the cadet inside. "Crawl, don't jump." As time passed, the environment revealed more signs of hidden danger. Some structures collapsed when approached too directly. Others remained stable only when ignored. The system rewarded patience and punished assumption. Still, tension grew. Cadets were tired. Confusion drained energy faster than combat ever could. Eventually, they reached a wide, open zone with a tall, broken structure at its center. It looked important, too important. "This feels like a trap," someone muttered. Myra agreed. Before anyone could stop them, a fast-moving cadet rushed toward the structure, eager to be first. The moment they touched it, the ground shifted violently. Shockwaves rippled outward. Several cadets were thrown off balance. Emergency barriers flared to life, cutting the field into sections. The class was separated. Mara landed hard but rolled, absorbing the impact the way she had been taught. She came to rest behind a slab of metal, heart-pounding. She checked her interface. Several cadets were now marked as isolated. Mara pushed herself up and took stock. She could see the gray-skinned cadet on the other side of a barrier helping another cadet stand. Their eyes met briefly through the shimmering field. He nodded once. That was new. Mara moved along the barrier, testing its edge. It was solid but not permanent. The system wanted to see what they would do while separated. She spoke loudly enough for others to hear. "Check your surroundings, don't rush." Then she shouted, "Stop running." The system had escalated because of isolation and fear. To calm it, they needed coordination without physical closeness. That was difficult. Myra opened her interface and broadcast a simple signal, not commands, a rhythm, slow pulses, steady and calm. Other human-designed systems used similar signals to regulate chaos, heartbeats, breathing exercises, emergency codes. The cadets noticed the signal and mirrored it, some without realizing why. The vibration slowed. The barriers flickered. The structure at the center cracked further, revealing it was hollow. It was not an objective, it was a warning. The gray-skinned cadet raised his voice. "She's right, stay steady." The ground stilled, the system waited. Myra walked toward the center, slow and visible. She did not touch the structure. She walked around it, showing the system she was not interested in dominance. The instructor's display showed stabilization across all zones. Finally, the instructor spoke. "Simulation complete." They stood back in the classroom, breathing hard, some leaning on desks. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the instructor stepped forward. "This phase ended early," they said, "because further escalation was unnecessary." It was about not making things worse. She had ended it, and the class understood now that humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they knew when to stop. The classroom did not return to normal right away after the simulation ended. The walls stayed dim, the air quiet, as if the academy itself needed a moment to breathe. Cadets stood where they were, some with hands on desks, others slowly sitting down. No one rushed. No one joked. What had happened inside the simulation stayed with them. Mara sat in her seat, her back straight but not tense. Her hands rested on her knees. She felt tired in a deep way, the kind that came after long focus rather than physical effort. Humans knew that feeling well, too. The instructor moved to the center of the room. Their many eyes scanned the class, not with judgment, but with interest. "You were not meant to finish that phase," the instructor said calmly. "It was designed to continue until failure." Because one cadet recognized the true limit of the exercise. "In most species," the instructor went on, "this behavior is taught late, if at all. In humans, it appears early." His voice was steady but not proud. "When the human arrived," he said, "we thought she was weak. We thought the academy lowered its standards. And control without ego creates safety. This evaluation," the instructor continued, "will not occur in simulation." They entered a large observation chamber with a wide, transparent wall. Beyond it floated open space, stars scattered like distant fires. In the center of the room stood a single console. The instructor stopped beside it. "This academy trains future leaders," they said. Leaders will face situations where power is available but wisdom is required. You will decide when this class is dismissed. It was about choice. Behind her, the cadets waited. Some looked curious, some nervous, some hopeful. Myra thought about Earth, about old shelters built underground, about emergency drills where people learned that survival depended not on strength but on cooperation, about mistakes humans had made again and again when they believed power solved everything. She placed her hand near the console but did not touch it. She turned around. "We've learned enough today," she said simply. "If we keep pushing, we'll stop listening, and that's when mistakes happen." The tension eased, like a held breath finally released. The instructor inclined their head. Class dismissed. One said, "Thank you." Another said nothing, but their eyes showed respect. The gray-skinned cadet stopped last. "You didn't embarrass us," he said quietly. "You could have." Not in dramatic announcements or official bulletins, but in whispers and quiet conversations. About the human exchange cadet. About the class that ended early. About the simulation that didn't break anyone because someone chose restraint. Instructors from other departments reviewed the data. They noticed patterns they had not seen before. They discussed updates, adjustments, new warnings. One line was added to the Academy's internal training notes. She had proven something better, that humanity's greatest strength was not force, speed, or power. It was judgment, and sometimes ending the class early was the strongest move of all.